Hey, why are we into comics? Why did we gravitate to this field? Why do we read them? Why do we create them? Why do we put so much interest and emphasis into comics? That's a good question. Let's talk about that. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. It's late. It's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It's not late. Depends on your point of view. It's later in the evening, and I often post these. I think I have all these scheduled to come out at like 7:30 in the morning. So it's a weird thing. Sometimes you're getting me throughout the day, morning, midday, evening, kind of all the different times I'm doing these videos. But you're hearing it always in the morning. So when I have these like late night drunken rants, it's a morning. It's very sobering. It doesn't line up quite well. I should post these in. I've thought about doing live streaming, but I mean that would be like super ramble. Like I would start that would go nowhere. So I don't think that anyone is interested in that type of content. So I do these pre-recorded things, so it gives me the opportunity to abort the video before it gets to you if it gets to be too rambly. And I think if it was just an open mic, I have no idea where it would go. Crazy Town, that's where it would go. But comics, I mean, so what's interesting to me, and I often think about this, is that comics is a visual medium. It's a combination of art and story, and it's a everlasting story. So one of the things that television sometimes brags about, and I hear it from the WWE, and sometimes from shows like The Simpsons or South Park or soap operas, I guess, do this as well. Is you have these shows with a lot of longevity. You have these shows that have they boast 20 years of continuous storytelling or longer, and that's impressive. Take nothing away from it. But comics is that even longer storytelling. It is decades and decades and decades. I mean, you take the Fantastic Four, and this is what I think a lot of people didn't get is the Fantastic Four from the 60s. So 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, aughts, teens. I mean, we're talking 6 decades worth of comics. And so when it was canceled, and just kind of put on hiatus for a while. I mean, granted, I think the Jonathan Hickman send off of Reed Richards and kind of that story. I mean, Secret Wars was ultimately a Fantastic Four story. Even when he did the Avengers, it was the Fantastic Four leading to the Avengers, leading to Time Runs Out, leading to Secret Wars. It was 6 decades worth of history that he was respecting and trying to put inside the can. And the sad part to me, at least, is I think I get it. I get that story and that importance. And I think a lot of comic fans really get that importance. And so when you see kind of very crass, cheap angles like, oh, Captain America is a Nazi now, or Batman's fighting Trump, who's supported by the Joker or Darkseid, or when you see these kinds of storylines, they feel very cheap to fans that have been reading these comics for 60 years or more or less. I mean, or maybe they haven't been reading for 60 years, but they have caught up on 60 years worth of content. I mean, the thing that I think people need to kind of sit down and almost in a zen-like state digest is that there are moments where a comic fan finds their way to the promised land. They find their way to this comic, this series by Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Batman, Doctor Strange, Superman, the New Gods, all these kinds of characters that are amazing. And they absorb 20, 30 years worth of content over the course of weeks or months, or maybe they find some issues, but then they have to go on a quest of themselves to find these other comics, be it digitally or into comic shops, getting those back issues, hunting down those trades. There's something it's a personal journey for a lot of comic fans to find these things. And in doing so, they become emotionally attached. They become connected to these stories, to these characters, to these journeys. And so that's why they get irritated when there is a kind of cheap, you know, current event that's kind of tossed casually. It's why people are like, I'm mad that, we're going to make, Captain America a Nazi, and we're going to remove all this history. Comic writers and creators of today, editors, people in the business, go, I don't understand why, fans are upset. I don't know why there's some toxic fandom that's doing this. I don't understand why people don't, get fixated on this. Well, they get fixated on it because they took a journey in their life to kind of come connected to this character. People in the comics industry, question, why these homophobic fans get angry at Iceman being gay. And the answer is it's not that, I mean, who knows what's in their heart? I don't know if these fans are homophobic or not. That's in their heart, in their soul. That's not for me to judge or try and figure out. But people who are angry at Iceman being quote unquote turned gay after 50 years, 60 years of history, it's not that they hate gay people. It's that there's 50 to 60 years of history that they grew up from. And this feels like a cheapened, hey, he's gay now kind of stunt that basically ignores this journey that the fans have. Now, I'm not saying to comic creators, anybody, you can't change things. I'm not saying you can't make Iceman gay. Make Iceman gay. You're the creator. You own the character, or Marvel owns the character, whatever. You can do whatever you want. It's your character. It's not the fans. It's not mine. It's yours. It's a comic publisher's. And if you could tell a good story, tell a good story. Because, again, we've been reading for decades to become immersed and attached to these stories. So, if you can tell a better one, you can tell a continuation of a great story. Hey, more power to you. That's great. That's what you should do. But don't be surprised if fans are upset, and don't automatically assume it's because of some ugly, awful reason, like they're homophobic or they hate gay people. Maybe it's simply because they became connected to these comics. They love these comics. They grew up. They attached themselves. And so when you're yanking the rug out from under, when you're changing core parts of the characters that they grew up with for 50 years, again, I think people need to resonate. Iceman was made in the 60s. We're talking 55. I mean, taking 55, yeah, I mean, roughly 55 years of history, half a century of history of comics, of material, not just hundreds of issues, thousands of issues of Iceman as a character. Now, was he the central part of Marvel? No, of course not. But he was in cartoons, he was in comics, he was a core part of Marvel, of what it meant. And so when people go on a journey to learn this character, and then suddenly we change a core part of this character, you're like, well, he was like this all along, you just didn't pick up on it. It's insulting to people who took that journey. Now, if you can land the story right and you can make it work, then people may be upset for the moment, but they'll get over it. And I want to repeat, that doesn't mean that you should be scared of changing a character or doing something new with it. Do it. But with boldness, with change, with making that adaptation, may come frustration. And if you handle that fan connection, if you handle that love of comics in a way that is wrong, that it does not speak normally to the experience of the comic, you're going to get a bad reaction. You're going to get people upset. That's normal. It's always going to be normal. And you just have to continue making that journey. Maybe you make a decision, you write a story, you do a character shift to Batman that people don't like. You do what Tom King does, and there's some people who don't like it. Continue forward. Be proud, be bold, be convinced in your story, finish it, tell a new story. Some other writer comes in, tell a new story. If there's one thing that's true about comic fans, in addition to being obsessive at times and connected overly, maybe, they're also loyal. You tell a good story, everybody will come back. You make that angle work, everybody will accept it. Comic fans love comics. They always have. They're connected more than, I think, any other medium, more than TV, more than books. Fans of comics are amazing people who truly love, are protective of, and care about where these comics are going. And that's a good thing. And whether you're Joe Quesada, Dan Didio, whoever you happen to be thankful for your fans, even when they're mad. Because even if they're screaming, ranting, raving, they're connected. They want to be connected to your journey. And yeah, it doesn't mean you have to like it when they scream at you, but that passion is there for a reason. It's because people want to be connected. That's worth thinking about. It's worth respecting. I don't know. Late night thought. There you go. Here you are. What do you think? I love comic fans. Comics are one of the best things in the world. I don't know what I'd do without them. I know a lot of people feel the same, and that's honorable. It's all we could ask for as retailers, as fans, as publishers, as creators. Comics are magical. Always have been, always will be. Leave your comments below. Like, subscribe if you like. Follow me on Twitter, Comic Perch. Thank you for listening, but more importantly, thank you for being a comic fan.